Hey everybody, and welcome back to another fun and exciting intermediate math class. In today's lesson, we're going to continue talking about algebra, continue talking about equations, and we're just going to kind of learn the next progression in equations. You might say, I thought we learned everything we needed to know. Well, you kind of did, actually. But what we're going to do now is we're going to put those two things together and solve what they call multi-step equations. A multi-step equation is just an equation that has more than one thing to do. In the other ones, it was like all we had to do is multiply or all we had to do is add, and we got the variable by itself. Go ahead and look down on page 449. Page 449 is where you'll find lesson 11.3. And let's jump into it. So multi-step equations. What is a multi-step equation? It's something that looks like this. So we have like 3x plus 2 equals 7, for example. So if you'll notice, we have this step right here, the plus 2 step. Remember that we would have to subtract 2 from both sides, okay? And then we also have this step. We have the times 3 step. So we would have to divide 3 from both sides. So the trick here is, okay, what order do I do this? Is it important? Does it matter if I multiply first or divide first or add first? Does it, does any of that matter? And the answer is yes, it does. So we have to solve these in the right order to get the right answer. It's kind of like an order of operation type problem, but it's just a little bit different. So you'll see here in these steps. All right, so number one, we want to do what we can do. Do what we can do. What is that step? Well, that step is to solve anything that you can solve. So in this one up here that I wrote out, there's not really anything that we can solve. There's not. So if this said like 7 plus 1, then we could solve 7 plus 1. But right now, I can't really do anything. I don't know what 3 times x is. I don't know what 3x plus 2 is. And there's nothing over here with the 7. So I can't really do anything yet. Okay? So I'm going to move on to step number 2. Isolate the variable. What does that mean? Get the letters by themselves and get the numbers by themselves. So we talked about that. So again, we could call this the letter side and this the number side. Okay? And so we're trying to get all the letters to the left, all the numbers to the right. That's what we're trying to do. So let's follow these next two steps and let's try that. All right, so right there. Do addition and subtraction first. All right, well, there's addition and subtraction right there. So we should do that first. That's what the step tells us to do. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. That will cancel and we'll get 3x equals 5. Okay. Now it says do multiplication and division second. Okay, so multiplication, division. We're going to divide both sides by 3. And so we get 3x equals 5 over 3. And that would be our final answer. And you might say, oh, wait, that's an improper fraction. Yes, I know it's an improper fraction. But now that we've gotten to algebra, we're going to keep our fractions improper most of the time. There's certain reasons why you would convert it to a mixed number. Maybe if the problem tells you to, if it's a story problem, something like that. But for the most part, we're just going to leave it like that. We don't have to simplify it. Could you simplify it? Yes, you could. I'm not going to mark it wrong. Most of your teachers won't mark it wrong. But in this case, in algebra, we're going to leave it as an improper fraction. Now what does it say? Check the solution. All right, that's the last thing. So let's go over here and let's check it. So 3 times 5 over 3 plus 2 equals 7. Well, we're just going to do this first because now we're just doing order of operation. So this cancels, we get 5 plus 2 equals 7. 5 plus 2 is 7 equals 7. It checks. We did it right. Okay, so just follow the steps. They're not that complicated. Take them one at a time. So here's what happens with students when they first start learning how to do multi-step equations. They totally lose their mind. Like, they just start doing whatever they want to do. You'll get it wrong every time. I promise you. You might get lucky every once in a while and get a right answer. For the most part, here's another thing that students do. In the last two lessons, you have not been following the steps. You've been doing them in your head because you're smart, right? You're like, oh, I know this. It's a 4, right? So you're like, oh yeah, 4 plus 2 equals 6. So you just sub it in there. Well, as soon as we get to these types of equations, they're going to become so much more challenging. You cannot just try to guess. You're going to get them wrong. Take the time. Follow the steps. One at a time. Don't try to skip steps. I promise you, I've taught hundreds of students this information. I know the mistakes that they make. So one huge mistake at this point is trying to do it yourself without following the steps. Please don't do that. You'll be sorry. Okay, here we go. Let's go to this problem, and we're just going to do step number 1. What's step number 1? There it is right there. Step number 1, do what you can do. All right, let's see if we can do anything on this one. So I have y divided by 7. Can't do that. Can't add 3 to that. Look over here. 4 plus 1. I can do that. So y over 7 plus 3 equals 5. There you go. We did what we can do. And now we're on to step number 2. What is that? Isolate the variable. Well, under step number 2, we have 2 different steps. We have do addition and subtraction first. Okay? So I have a plus 3. What do I want to do here? I want to subtract 3 from both sides. That's going to cancel that, and I'm going to get y over 7 equals 5 minus 3 is 2. Now I go back here. I'm at do multiplication and division second. So there we go. I have divided by 7, so the opposite of divided by 7 is times 7. I have to do that to both sides. Well, I do this math and I get cancel out, and I get y equals 2 times 7 is 14. That's my answer. As soon as I get to y equals something, I'm done. Except for step number 3. What is that? Check the solution. Okay, well, let's take 14 and plug it back in up here. So I have 14 divided by 7 plus 3 equals 4 plus 1. What is 14 divided by 7? It's 2 plus 3 equals 4 plus 1. 5 equals 5. Check. We're good. All right, let's do another one. Isn't this fun? This is good stuff right here. All right, so here we go. We have you're like, no, not fun. Okay, math and fun, not a thing together. All right, I know some of you don't like this stuff, but hang in there. And I think it can be fun when you get to know how to do it. It's easy. Move stuff around. You're like, it's not easy. I know, but I'm telling you, if you practice it, if you work through it, it can become easy. It really can. Trust me. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do what we can do. That's step number 1. Do what we can do. Well, let's check this out. This one looks a little different, but I can do something right here. I can combine like terms. Remember, I can put the oranges with the oranges. I can't put the apples with the oranges, so I can't combine this, but I can combine these two. So what's 3x plus 2x? That is 5x minus 9 equals 6. Now my goal is to get the letters on one side, the numbers on the other. So I want to isolate the variable. How do I do that? Our steps tell us to do the addition and subtraction first. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That will cancel that. I'll get 5x equals, and then I have to do this math right here, and I would get 15. Then I would do the division and multiplication steps. So right here, I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I'm going to get x equals 3. There you go. Now I need to plug that back in to my original to solve for it. So 3 times 3 plus 2 times 3 minus 9 equals 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. Minus 9 equals 6. Well, these are going to cancel because I have a plus 9 and a minus 9. 6 equals 6. There you go. I told you this was going to be easy, right? Like, it's still not easy. I know. Keep working hard. I'm just teasing you about this thing being easy. I know it's very challenging, so keep working hard at it. All right, let's do a word problem since I know you love those so much. The sum of twice a number. What does that mean? Well, we know that this word sum means an addition, right? So we're going to have an addition of twice a number. How would we say that? Twice a number. We say twice a number by 2 times x, or 2 times n, or 2 times whatever letter you want to use. 2x. So then we have the sum, and I know the word sum comes before 2x, but you'd put the addition sign here, and 11 is always is like an equal sign whenever you see is, and then 45. And there's our equation. So we have 2x plus 11 equals 45. And we want to solve that by following our steps. Step number 1, do what you can do. I can't do anything there. There's no common terms. I can't do anything. So on to step number 2. Step number 2 is isolate the variables. We're going to try to get x by itself. How are we going to do that? Number 1 underneath that is we're going to do the addition and subtraction first. So if we have plus 11 on this side with the x, we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. That will cancel, and we'll get 2x equals, and then 45 minus 11 is going to be 34. Now we're going to divide 2, because again, we want to get x by itself. That cancels, and we get x equals, and we do that, and if you need to come over here and do this over here, you can. That's going to give you 1, 2, 1, 14, 17. X equals 17. Don't forget to check it. I would throw that back into the original, so 2 times 17 plus 11 equals 45. 2 times 17 is going to be 34, plus 11 is 45, and 45 equals 45. So we got our check correct. We're good. So our missing number there is 17. So in other words, you could say that the sum of twice 17 and 11 is 45. So going back to the original to just make sure that it makes sense to you. Let's do one more of those since, again, I know you're having a good time here doing word problems. All right, it says 6 less than 3 times a number is 51. Be careful right here with this 6 less than a number. What does that mean? What is 6 less than 10, for example? Just say that in your mind. 6 less than 10. If I have 10, what is 6 less than that? Well, it's 4. If I put 6 minus 10, what do I get? I get negative 4. That's wrong. 6 less than a number is 10 minus 6 equals positive 4. Okay? So some of these, subtraction is a really tricky one sometimes with word problems. You have to make sure that it's in the right order. So maybe try to make that make sense in your head. So we're going to have less than, we're going to have 3 times a number. So 3x, and then minus 6 is, that's our equal sign, 51. So there we go. Let's try to solve that. 3x minus 6 equals 51. Do what you can do. I don't see anything I can do. Hopefully you don't either. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 6 to both sides. Try to get x by itself. That's going to cancel. 3x equals 51 plus 6 is going to be 57. We're going to divide both sides by 3 again in an attempt to get x by itself. There we go. We got it. And now we need to do this math right over here. But you said I could leave fractions improper. Why don't I just leave that fraction improper? Because technically it's a division problem, and we're going to see if we can divide that out. So 57 divided by 3. So 57 divided by 3, it's going to give us 1, 3, 27, and we get 9. When we can divide it, we divide it. Because look, it came out evenly, and it just came out to 19. So x equals 19 would be our answer. Now let's plug that back in. 3 times 19 minus 6 equals 51. 3 times 19 was 57. Minus 6 equals 51. 57 minus 6 is 51 equals 51. Now, here's where students get into trouble on these word problems. They mess this up. They say 6 minus 3 times a number. They write it like this. And this is wrong. And this will give you a wrong answer. So when you go to check it, some students will check it against the equation they built. And if you check it against the equation you built, you're going to check and it's going to say, oh, that's right, we're good. No, check it against this original expression that they give you in the question. And I think that will help you if you check it back against the original rather than against the equation that you built, because you may have built the wrong equation. So just a thought there that might help you as you're trying to solve these. So that's all I have for you in this lesson. I know there was a lot there, but it was just the same thing over and over, right? You know, it was just following the steps. What are the steps? Make sure you wrote those down. If you didn't, scroll it back, write those steps down. It's so important that you know those. If you're going to try to skip steps or do it in your head, you're going to get wrong answers, I promise you. Follow the steps. You won't regret it, okay? So, first thing that we want to do what we can do. Solve what we can solve. Then you're going to go through and then you're going to do the addition and the subtraction to try to get the x by itself. Then you're going to do the multiplication and division, again, trying to get x by itself. Then that should give you an answer, and then you check that answer. Follow the steps, and you'll have good success here. All right? That's all I've got for you. If you missed anything, scroll it back, watch it again. We'll see you later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.